about how the slides have been identified by Krista as being those that are most directly relevant. And this is to be consistent with our discussion of November the 19th. I will tell you that I did a review and am comfortable with how these slides have been designated. I could make the argument that all slides related to House Bill 1735 could be germane to confidential employees and student advocates, but only insofar as our charge was under 1735 of a more general nature for these two categories, confidential employees and student advocates. But aside from that general observation, I think that Krista has fairly identified those slides that are more directly relevant to those two categories of individuals. Does anybody have any thoughts, concerns, or comments about that category or any of the categories? Now's the time to discuss them. Okay, hearing none. I will infer that we are prepared to accept the document. Actually, it's a document and an additional one that broke out into categories, and that one is called the title is THECB, Training Materials for SB 212 and HB 1735. Mary, I think we have accepted these two documents for purposes of what will be part of our recommendation.
Fine.
In terms of how we can or should best approach the documents, it seems to me we ought to go directly to the slide deck itself now. And that's with the understanding that, depending upon our discussion, we may be adding slides that will change the numbers that we have just accepted, and that we are counting on Mary giving us 2 thumbs up that those slides will be renumbered but retained as the slides to be directed as recommended slides for the 3 categories. So what I'd like to do now is confirm that there is no reason for us to return to a substantive discussion of those slides that we reviewed and discussed in detail on November the 19th. There may be reason to reopen that discussion, and so I'm going to ask now if anybody has reason to revisit the substance of any of the slides that we worked on November the 19th. Krista?
Hi, yes, just to revisit what I sent earlier this morning, I did end up including all of the hypotheticals that we had available as of this morning into the slide decks, into the notes section. And there was one example that I had just noticed that they may need to be modified slightly. So let me just find it real quick, hold on.
And while Krista is doing that, what Krista mentions opens up a topic for discussion, and that is, and with thanks to her for having incorporated the hypotheticals, or examples, if you will, without altering the slide deck, because they were not new slides in Krista's rendition, but rather our notes. I think we all know that that now leaves us with a slide deck in which we have some hypotheticals that are slides and some hypotheticals that are not slides. And I tend to lean toward consistency in the absence of good reason for varying from a consistent approach for the same category of materials, hypotheticals. But I could, that's just my inclination. Does anybody have different thoughts? My inclination is we either use hypos in all slides, or we put our no hypos in slides and rather only put them in notes. I think that Mary has some, would you like to share just your observations with materials of this kind?
I would advise the committee to consider putting them as slides. And the reason, as I think about this, is that when we have training here at the coordinating board, a lot of times what happens is that an individual will use an audio input into that slide and essentially read the slide to the person. And sometimes what happens is that they don't actually, the viewer doesn't actually see the notes at all. So unless the individual institution wants to ensure that the audio is included in the slide, it's very possible that individuals will only pull up the slides and not the note pages.
Thank you, Mary. This is Krista. I initially added the hypotheticals into the note sections because I was inferring that maybe we were trying to not add more slides to the already very comprehensive slide deck. So that was my initial reason for that. And also I was hoping to maybe just consolidate all of our different documents so that there wouldn't be another attachment. But I am not tied to any version necessarily, but thank you, Mary, for giving that rationale for maybe adding the slides, just so that the content is all fully readable and accessible.
Donna, over our meetings, you have voiced, I think, helpful observations about effective communication and the most effective means of conveying in training materials that which we've put together. So let me direct that question to you. Do you think it matters? The logic of what Krista did, it makes good sense. I don't think it's crucial or huge, but I do think it suggests a distinction that may be one that really we don't intend. I just don't know. Do you want to comment on that?
I don't know. I kind of think Mary's point is well taken. I'm concerned that if we don't use them as slides, that they will be missed. And I think that the examples are the things that really are meaningful for people when they get training, because they get real life examples, and that just is much more meaningful to them.
Thank you. Anyone else want to join in?
No, this is Krista. I second that. I think the examples are really, really helpful.
Well,
Michelle, and I agree completely. I think those are, from our employees, that's the best feedback we get, is when we give actual hypotheticals like that.
so you support making slides of all hypotheticals, Michelle?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have a different view? Then I think we, as a committee, have decided that we will convert all of the new materials into slides, and I think Rick did make slides of his, and so those will be added, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I created one slide with the hypo, and then one, it was just 2 slides, one with some links for resources about sexual assault advocates.
Okay. All right. So that decision has been made, and Mary has indicated that this is something that can be done without need for further input of the advisory committee. True?
Almost true. My thought was that since Krista's email showed which slides had the hypotheticals, and I have Rick's separated out, what we could do is bring up those slides and discuss those hypotheticals. And then once the committee has agreed to those hypotheticals, which they haven't seen yet, all of them, then we can, essentially what I'll be doing is just adding slides and then cutting and pasting from the note pages into the slide, and then adjusting the slide numbers as appropriate on Krista's 2 documents, so if that works. And then just as a quick aside for everyone, we are now broadcasting, so you can pull up on our website. If you go onto our website, and you click on the Title IX Training Advisory Committee link, which is under the events section in the middle, you can click on it, and then you're going to be directed to the Title IX Advisory Committee's webpage. And in the middle of that page, you're going to see a link to a YouTube video, and you'll be also.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And just an observation, since we've been broadcasting these meetings, I, for one, will confess that I have received no invitations or offers for narration or running meetings, and if you have, good for you, but I have not.
But you will, I'm sure.
Okay.
Well, did you call your mom, David?
You know, I did, but she doesn't know what I do.
So how about if I pull up the first one, which is slide number 21, which Kristen added the note pages. So right now, if you want, right now I'm on slide 1. I can just move directly to 21.
Yes, please.
And as you can see, I'm going to just show you at the bottom of that slide. Of course, these numbers are going to change, see? So on this slide now, it says equal access. It's PowerPoint slide number 21. Erica created it. It was the main section, and it was her first slide. So that's the notation. And then I'll just pull up hopefully you can see the hypothetical, and maybe, Kristen, you might have to read it. So anyway.
Mary, are we looking at number 1 of that email that you sent to us with just to make sure everyone's on the right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you. Yeah, it's actually it's the first thing that's the final, what we think is the final draft of this PowerPoint.
And just for further reference, the hypothetical is a student who is blind wishes to ...
So as your chair, I would suggest that while some of us are inveterate, unrepentant editors and could be tempted to change things, I'm going to try to resist that temptation and restrict my suggestions, if any, to substantive concerns. Are there substantive concerns with this hypothetical? Okay, I think we can move to the next hypothetical, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, this one's number 24.
And just for reference, it is an accountant in the business office ...
I'm having a little trouble following. You said it's slide 24?
Yes, it should be it's in that document that Krista sent out, and then it's number 1 in the 11. I sent out 11 things, and it's
Right.
number 1 on
Which
that.
one it is? I can't open up, all these different documents, so
Okay, actually, for right
So-
now, I don't think you need to have anything
I can't
open.
hear you. Y'all are not speaking very loudly, so it's
Okay.
really hard for me to hear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Donna, Donna,
Better. Yeah.
Donna, this is Erica. The easiest way to find it is the email that Mary sent at 11:28 a.m. There's the number 1 document in there, the first PowerPoint. I'm using
Right.
that. Then in the notes, you'll see the hypotheticals in the notes. And we are on slide, let me go back.
Okay.
24.
Yes, 24 right now. And the hypotheticals are in the notes.
I got it.
Everybody else okay? Did they find it? Anybody have any trouble finding this? Okay.
Giving you all just a few seconds to review it. Any comments, or let me rephrase that, any concerns? Mary, I think we can move to the next hypothetical.
This one's slide number 25.
Any concerns? Anyone need more time? Okay, let's go to the next hypothetical. That one's fine.
Now we're on slide 27, circumstances in which employees must report.
Any concerns?
Krista, these were slides that were originally in it, and you just pulled them out and put them into the notes, right? Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so what we have, to Rick's question, is we do have a combination of some hypotheticals that we reviewed last month and those that were more recently submitted, just in the last 24 to 36 hours. No comments on this. I think we can now move to the next hypothetical.
Okay, this one's number 32, and it's titled Employees Accepted Category 1.
Concerns? Okay, thank you. Next hypothetical, please.
This one's number 34, Employees Accepted Category 3.
Anyone? Okay, thank you, Mary. Next hypo.
Okay, this one has a couple of hypos. And this one's titled Employees Accepted Category 4. Should be slide 35.
Any concerns? That's a complicated
Just a
fact
quick
pattern.
question. Do you
That's-
want me to make 2 slides out of this or just 1?
I would say maybe 2. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Can I go back to 34 really quickly? I'm sorry. I was just rereading.
Rick, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Let me try another mic.
We can't hear you.
Can y'all hear me now? Sorry, it was the mic.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go back to 34 really quickly. I wonder if there just needs some clarification in the answer to that, just the way that it reads to me, and I know this can be explained by the person facilitating the training, but no required reporters are not required to report disclosure made during public awareness events such as Take Back the Night or events hosted during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I wonder if, because that specifically is in April, does that mean that any other events hosted throughout the year? I know the answer to this question, but I wonder if we need some clarification in there that might say disclosures made during public awareness events at any time of the year, such as Take Back the Night, or events hosted specifically during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Does that make any sense to anyone?
I see what you're saying. I wrote the such as to give examples, and it could be just reframed like you can put a period there, just put examples would be these events, not all inclusive. So the such as was intended to be i.e. or examples, but if that's confusing to people, I would say just put a period after events and then just put examples would be these.
Let me just ask the other members of the committee if they share Rick's concern or not. Anybody?
This is Eve. I don't share that concern, but another option would be to just regurgitate the information that's on the slide, which is the answer. So.
Yeah, this is Krista. Yeah, we could, so do you want us to make just a slight edit,
Sure.
Mary?
You go right ahead.
Okay.
Let me know whatever you want me to do, and I'll do it.
Okay. Well, before you put any hypotheticals, or, well, you're making edits, so I don't want to make this complicated. Required.
Sorry, y'all. It just...
Why don't we just put a period at the end of public awareness events, as I think was suggested by Erica or Eve? I'm not sure who did
Yeah,
that, but
that's fine, yeah.
and
Or
then
even-
just say examples include.
Or even after, such as Take Back the Night period, and maybe just taking out the specific Sexual Assault Awareness Month, because DV month is in October. Like you would, you know what I mean? Just listing that one specific when there's other ones as well that could apply. So maybe just after Take Back the Night period.
Once again, I'll just ask the committee, and no disrespect, Rick, it's just,
worries.
I don't know if anyone else shares the concern you have.
I think it's fine the way it is. I'm not confused by this.
Okay.
I'm not confused by it. Anyone else? No, I think it's good that we're having this discussion, and we have, when necessary, we have voted on things to make clear. In this case, I think that with that input, we've decided to leave this hypothetical as is. Okay.
Agreed. This is Krista.
Okay, so we're good there.
So we're going on to the next typo.
And then we want 2 of those. Okay, so 38. Okay, this one is number 38. It's titled, Another Caution on Confidentiality for Employee Health or Medical Providers.
Any concerns? Again, this is a little more complex fact pattern. Go up. Give me 1 second, y'all. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm thinking that the first few words of the question, Ifioma, I hope I'm not ruining that name, is a counselor, and in that capacity receives this. This is a confidential communication. Am I underthinking it?
Yeah, that is correct. One thing that I think makes it complicated is that, where is it? That James has allegedly, on more than one occasion, threatened to harm himself if Alex does not engage with him. So I think one piece of the answer may be another consideration of if there's imminent danger or harm, that counselor also needs to be making that consideration before just reporting stalking to the court.
Yeah, this is Eve. I wasn't trying to get into all that. I was just trying to kind of set up a typical stalking scenario. So if something that I've said that this person did makes it confusing, then...
No, but I don't think it's confusing, Eve. I think that on one occasion threatened to harm self does raise that issue.
Okay, well, you can take that out. I just, was trying to set up a stalking scenario, caused substantial emotional distress, made you fear for yourself, the safety of yourself or others. So,
I almost prefer leaving it in with Krista's observation as just, unless y'all feel that's too complicated for a training. I mean, that is a valid issue. It is, if not typical of a stalking scenario, it is not atypical, and it does entail something that maybe we can assume that the licensed professional should and would know and doesn't need to be part of the training. I don't know.
Right. I mean, the question is she required to report it to the Title IX coordinator? So, the question is limited to what is required to be reported to the Title IX coordinator, not to any other governing bodies or people or places about anything else.
So, folks who we haven't heard from or have out there, does anybody feel as if this slide merits a revision either through removing the threat of harm to self, or with the addition of some language that would address an additional obligation on a licensed healthcare provider?
This is Krista. I would recommend we just take out the one part about threatening to harm himself, just to make it a little bit more clear-cut for the purposes of the Title IX coordinator reporting. It was something I noticed in the example for the student advocate as well, and I did make some proposed edits to that when we get to it on slide 42. But I think for the purposes of this, just making it clear, and not that it's not clear cut, but just for this particular example, I think that makes more sense.
Anyone? I'm comfortable with that suggestion.
Same.
Rick says he is as well. Last chance to voice concern with the plan, which is to remove and has on more than one occasion threatened to harm himself if Alex does not engage with him. Okay, hearing no,
Actually,
hang on.
where is that now?
It's in the first full paragraph under the question, and it is the third line from the bottom.
It's slide 35.
Oh, Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on slide 38. I'm sorry.
Is everybody on the same slide?
I think we had jumped to 38 and then we went back
see.
to 35.
Okay.
I was on 38 as well.
Okay, so now, okay, so here, right now, then, we're on 35.
Yes.
Okay, I see it.
And
You want to take out,
So you can just delete, starting with "and has on more than one occasion." And all the way through, if Alex does not engage with him, period. You can delete that.
And so the preceding phrase is now not to be ended with a semicolon, but a period.
I think I got it now.
Okay, thank you. All right, now,
Now,
slide 38.
yeah, that out so it won't get confusing. Okay. Now we're on slide 38. I'm sorry, I confused everyone. Now we're on another caution on confidentiality for employee, health, or medical providers.
Any concerns? Oh,
None.
okay. I think we can move to the next hypothetical.
So this is Krista. This is a hypothetical that was going to be used for 38 and for 41. So I just copy and pasted the same example for 41. Does anyone have any concerns or objections to that?
This is Rachel. I don't think we need it twice. I think just one or the other.
Yeah, so when I said it, this is kind of how I wrote this, Erica. I think we can delete it, but I didn't see how there was really much else I could really exemplify. I could really demonstrate the hypothetical for this one because it kind of was all covered in the previous one.
Okay, that makes sense. We can just delete it from 41 then, since it already gets used in 38. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Any objection to removing what is now slide 41?
Or just the hypothetical?
The hypothetical, excuse me.
I think, I don't know, Mary, where,
Yours are going to be separated.
okay,
I'll pull those up next, Rick.
great.
Okay, so we're moving to our next hypothetical.
It's 42.
So,
Okay, so now we're on slide 42. What must student advocates report?
okay, so on slide 42, this is Krista. This is the hypothetical that I made some slight proposed edits on, and those are all in the notes section of slide 42 for everyone's review.
And again, do you want 2 slides or 1?
Everybody take just a few seconds to read it.
Is it supposed to say Trent is? Or under the answer, it says, is Trent still required?
I'm sorry, which part are you referring to?
So under the answer,
First answer or second?
first answer, it says.
Yeah, I
Okay,
gotcha.
You got it?
Yeah.
You got me? Okay.
There's also a typo.
Typo.
Yeah.
In the
should
first
be-
line,
Should
if
be
Trent
there.
determined that
Oh,
there was not.
I'm missing it.
Mary, I'll send you, I've been making edits.
Okay, I'd
Okay.
rather
No,
just get it
yeah,
all
we'll
now.
keep Mary up to date. It's in the first answer, first line, if Trent determined that there was not. There was no T in front of here. It says here was not, so it should be determined that there was not imminent danger. THERE.
No, we've got it. This is 42.
I think this is kind of missing some of the key part here. I think the way the answer is written, it's.
Oh, got it.
This is Erica. Sorry, I think the key thing here for me when I was writing this hypothetical was to stress that essentially the student advocate is confidential, and I feel like the way the first answer is written almost implies that they're not confidential, or I'm just trying to think of how to reword it where I think that's what comes across.
Sorry, this is Krista. I was trying to help Mary. So my initial thoughts with my suggested edits were that there could be imminent danger, and that's with the proposed information. Oh, and the student just, like in the initial example, the student just starts disclosing things to the student advocate. So I had made a revision that Trent sets up a time to meet with them versus a full disclosure happening, because there could be some boundary issues with those disclosures. But the other piece that I thought would be, I don't think they were physically abusive. I don't have the example in front of me, but anyways, I added physically abusive. I mean, if it's too complicated to get into imminent danger and threat assessment, then maybe
I think it is, because I don't think that the way that the statute is written that it really goes into imminent danger for student advocates, which is one of the concerns I have for student advocates existing in general. That's why I didn't go that route, because it's truly just about when they have the consent to report or not to report. And if it's in the statute and I missed it, that's fine. I just don't I don't remember that really being there. I think we're assuming that it probably should be there because other confidential reporters typically have the understanding of imminent danger, things like that. The student advocate one, I don't remember that being in there, but it may be. I may have missed it.
Well, I think something that stuck out to me when I read the initial example was that the student also feared for her safety. And so a good advocate should be doing some additional probing, but since there wasn't any additional information in the example, my thought was to at least address imminent danger in some capacity, since there is some warning with that language, that's all.
I only added fear for her safety to kind of go to the elements that are included for the statute for the to go to the elements. I would say that we remove fear for her safety, or perhaps use an example that doesn't have an imminent danger part to it, because I think that piece is goes more detailed into training for student advocates than I think what the law requires us to write for this training.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, then I think we should. Mary, I think for just the purposes of time, well, I don't know, what would be the best thing to do in terms of making adjustments to the example?
I can rewrite it again. I'll just do a sexual assault because I don't think there's typically imminent danger with that. So I'll just change it to sexual assault, and then we can just, and I'll send it here quickly so we can just review it real quickly, because I think that'll just get to the idea about when they're required to disclose and disclosing with consent.
Thank you. You're excused to write a new hypo.
Okay, so we're going to delete this one completely?
Let's move to the next one, and let's just put a marker by 42 that we're coming back to it.
Okay. From Erica, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for these hypotheticals. So now I'm going to move us to Rick's new slides that would be placed after slide 40.
And in full transparency, I'm very open to suggestions, edits, tweaks, whatever you'd like.
Come on, Donna. I see all those references to legal citation there.
Right. I knew that was going to get me.
I would edit it down a bit to get rid of some of those citations. I don't think you need them. You can put a couple at the end. You've got the links to the different standards anyway. So
I agree.
Okay.
So you take out as laid out in section da-da-da of the government code, must be certified according to minimum standards, period, and get out the rest of that sentence.
Would y'all be opposed to keeping in, must be certified according to the minimum standards set forth by the Texas Attorney General, period?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to need help editing this one. So I'm going to cut and paste this whole thing into the notes.
All right.
So now, if you guys could tell me what you want out, I'll take it out.
All right.
So Mary, on the very first sentence,
Yep.
you will take out, after the word program,
Right.
put a period and take out as laid out in section 420.071 of the Texas Government Code.
Got it.
In the second sentence, you will put a period after Texas Attorney General and take out the end.
Got it.
Thanks, Donna.
So with that being said, as well, under the victims of dating family violence, should we take out the Chapter 93 section as well?
Yeah, I don't think you need that.
I agree. Yeah.
So you take out that second sentence.
Got it. So at this point, you can hopefully see it on the broadcast, and those of us who are physically present can see it. So did I capture everything right that y'all talked about?
Can't see it.
And I don't disagree with what was just proposed, I think, by Donna. We're now in the second part of the slide, Texas Family Code. You could, Rick, and I'm just suggesting this, if you feel strongly, just say state law provides a privilege for written, and take out the Chapter 93 accomplishes this by. I don't know if it's redundant or not, but that would certainly take out legal citation.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think I would like to keep Texas Government Code, Victims of Sexual Assault, and Texas Family Code, Victims of Dating Family Violence in, so that folks at least have a reference on where they can find those should they want to go and look, because they are two separate, distinct documents that lay everything out.
So at this point, you should probably all see the broadcast, so you might just look at the bottom of the slide in the notes section. So I'm going to edit the slide. I'm basically going to cut and paste this information back into the slide. So is that right?
I have to look at it too.
Tell you what, how about if I do it this way? Well, no, I can't. Never mind.
First edit, I think, is as discussed. The second edit took out the second sentence, but we're going to put that second sentence back in with modification.
Okay.
Under the Texas Family.
Got it.
Take out Chapter 93 accomplishes state law provides privilege for.
Got it.
So I had a question about the hyperlinks that are put into this slide here. Those will take you directly either to our website or to TCFE, where people can find that information. Is that a proper place to leave these in? I didn't know where else to put those, if they should be put in the appendix or if they should be separate documents. I wasn't sure how to do that, so I just added it in here. But if anyone has suggestions, because they are very distinct, different resources for folks, which I think everyone should have.
So this is Donna. Mary, when we post this training, it's going to have hot links on it, right? We're not going to post it as or the PDF will at least have hot links, right?
It will, yes.
So I think having it in there is fine, because the trainer is obviously going to go through this. And also, are we going to, I kind of feel like we should have it both as a PDF and in a PowerPoint version, so if somebody wants to edit it a little bit, they could,
Yeah,
right?
that's fine. I actually, just so you all know, I was going to share this later, but since we're talking about it now, I spoke with one of my colleagues this morning, and as I think I shared with you at the last meeting, we have a training website for newly appointed regents and newly elected trustees based on all their mandated training, and we're going to set up a website very similar to that for the Title IX coordinators and these individuals. So I can display that a little bit later just to show you what we're sort of envisioning for this. So your suggestions on the website itself would be welcome.
And that would be, that's fine and great. That's not part of what we have to finish today.
No, we don't.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
Are there any questions or concerns with what we'll call slide one from Rick? Okay.
No, this is Erica. Mary, I did email you a quick change on the hypo. So whenever we finish Rick, we can do that one too. I guess.
Okay,
Oh, fine.
thanks.
And I think, Erica, if you changed it to sexual assault, it might complement my hypothetical, which is the next slide, number 2. And again, if you feel like this, any of y'all feel like this isn't even necessary or we don't need it, I'm totally fine with that. When I see a typo, sorry.
Apart from just consistency in the formatting with the Q and the A that I think we've adopted in hypothetical /example, that would be all I see. It's not a concern. It would just be a revision for consistency. Does anybody have concerns?
Did you say you had a typo? I didn't.
I do. So it says, once they present to the hospital or community-based program as a victim of sexual assault, comma, an advocate for a sexual assault survivors, just take out the S after survivors.
Yeah. Now, I think once Mary gives us the signal to go to the revised hypothetical from Erica, my question is, are there folks who are on this call who are not viewing the real-time broadcast? If so, we would like to send you by email that hypothetical. Is anybody wanting an email of what Erica has sent?
This is Eve. I'm not viewing it real time.
Mary, can you just send forward
Will do.
to everybody?
Will do.
Thanks. We are in process, y'all.
Okay, here it comes.
You should be getting it now.
I just see one typo on the very last sentence of the question.
And just before we do that, I want to make sure I've got the right slide up. This is for slide number 42, is that right? It says, what must student advocates report?
Yes.
I think I might have messed up then, because I want to... hang on one second, I'm sorry. Let's see. Delete. I know what's wrong, sorry. There we go. Okay, now, I'm sorry, I accidentally brought up the old version, and now I wanted to make sure I got the right version before I start making any more other changes. So now we're on slide 42, what must student advocates report? And this is the revised from Erica that is now showing back.
And the revision, if I understand correctly, would replace in its entirety the note to slide 42.
Correct, that was
Correct.
me.
And it's missing a was on the last sentence of the question.
Yeah.
Should Trent report this matter?
It's before that.
Where it says the student reported to Trent that she sexually assaulted, it should be she was sexually assaulted.
Got it. Did somebody just join us?
No, it might have been my
Hey,
alerts
Florence,
on my laptop.
Florence, just to make sure, Florence, are you on? No, okay.
This is Krista. I have a clarifying question. So a student advocate is designated, they would still be required to report the sexual assault type, the type of incident?
Unless, if the student advocate happens, no, they would not be subject to a 212 reporting requirement. They're an enrolled, well, I don't know. Actually, I take that back. We need to get clarification on the definition of student advocate.
I do not believe
My
student.
instinct
There
was
isn't-
the same as yours, though, David, that they would not be an employee.
I was assuming that they would not be an employee.
Okay.
I don't know if that is a correct assumption.
I will look into that, but I recall from our first meeting, we decided that could not be an employee.
That was Kathy Cordova, our Assistant General Counsel.
Okay.
Assuming that assumption to be correct, then the student advocate would not have a 212 reporting requirement.
Okay, so for those of you who are not watching in real time, I've got a note here that says, student advocate may not have a Senate Bill 212 reporting requirement. Kathy Cordova will check.
With that understanding, are there any concerns for a revised revision to the note to slide 42? Okay, I think we are good.
Okay,
So now we move to
accept.
our appendix. Is that next?
Yes, I think so. Let me just put them in the same order that, so right now, we've got Rick's slides, and I'll incorporate those into the one that you had just finalized. And then we've got the companion list, which I can adjust, and the training materials, which I can adjust based on the new numbers. And then, so the next one is this MOU rape crisis. This was Donna's. So Donna, do you want to talk us through this one?
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Donna, we have moved to documents in the appendix, and we're starting with the sample MOU that you were good enough to provide.
Oh, yeah, I got offline. I can't remember, when I was searching for different things, that came up, and I just thought that would be a useful resource for the group, when we were like, what do these MOUs look like? And that's something the federal government put out, so I thought that would be a useful link. That's all.
Okay. In addition to what appears to be a head note where the document came from, is there any other qualifying language that we would be well served to consider, such as this is, don't climb on ladders kind of notice that this
Yeah,
is?
I mean, I think just because it's obviously an external document, I think we're good.
I'm okay leaving it as is if everybody else is. Okay. Anyone?
It actually has a example at the end. So that's, see there?
I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna. Yours has a sample at the end, just so everybody realizes that it's a 4-page document, and there's a signature line at the very end that people can use. I don't actually have you probably don't have anything other than the PDF though, right, Donna?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're good with this.
All right. No objection to that.
Then the next one is also Donna's. This is the sexual misconduct policy checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll try to make it so that you can see all of it, but there we go.
That was just meant to be just something to help you as you're going through what your policy needs to include and what are the things that you need to do. Just kind of a helpful, document that's how I think, have I done everything that I need to do as it relates to this? And this was just kind of compiling everything since we had gone through those two bills in such detail.
This is Rachel. I think that document is really helpful. My one suggestion would be adding an express reference, maybe in the heading, that it is as it relates to Texas law, as opposed to any requirements that might exist under Clery or Title IX.
Yeah, we could put that. Just make it Texas Title IX Coordinator of Sexual Misconduct Policy. Something. I don't care.
Yeah, why don't we just put Texas in front of that? Texas Title IX Coordinator. Donna, how do you feel about throwing the word sample either at the front of this or before
Or put
checklist?
it at the end, you could even just put a little footer about, this is from the Senate Bill, 212 and House Bill 1735, whatever this legislative session was. You could put that at the end, so it's clear what this was created from and for.
You okay with our putting your cell phone number on this document?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're okay with that, I'll go ahead and make that edit, Donna, and then I'll send it to you for final approval if the committee is okay with that.
Sure. That's good.
Sounds good.
Okay, here's the glossary. There's actually several versions of this. This particular one is the quote-unquote clean version, but Krista has made a couple of additional edits. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, they're minor. I do have all of the original ones if you want to see them, but this is what is, at this point, the final draft with just a couple of edits.
Let me just quickly interject. I don't know that going back in prior iterations is going to be helpful. I think highlighting, and Krista can highlight those specific revisions that she suggested to the last draft of the glossary, and anyone else can weigh in should they have comments or questions.
I thought they were fine.
Yeah, they actually are. She's tracked the edits. So instead of party, she's changed things to person.
Are there any other?
This is Rachel. One additional comment I had, and I'm trying to find it from my review. Maybe it's in a different document. Hold on. Oh, under employee, and then we have responsible employee. Since that's a Title IX type term, and since different campuses may designate different employees as confidential, maybe we need to see may include, or instead include but are not limited to, something that gives more discretion. A couple of examples I thought of is in the second bullet, there's reference to athletic staff, including trainers, that some campuses may view athletic trainers as medical professionals, which have separate confidentiality treatment. And the last bullet references residential life staff, including resident assistants, which are typically students, and those would not be included as being required to report under 212. So I just think without some type of caveat, this might be confusing.
My I share that view. I think that responsible employee is a term in law, but not a term in the laws that we've been charged with addressing. And so I think it's helpful in the glossary. I wonder if separating from employee, having a standalone responsible employee may include the following. Donna, this is part of your document, so I'd like to...
Fine with that.
Okay. So, Mary, what we will do, if you follow, is create a separate definition for responsible employee out from under employee,
Got it.
and it would alphabetically follow reporter.
So basically, you want to take this out.
All of responsible employee,
Okay.
and move it
Okay.
to, it would be between reporter, and I can't see the next.
Mary, I had started making some slight adjustments. I can send you that document right now.
At this point, it's a little bit easier for me to, because I have to get it over here and then transfer it, so I won't really. Yeah.
Y'all out there, why don't we just take a minute so that Krista can, why don't you just walk over to Mary and show her what you
If
have?
you have it on a flash drive, I can load it.
It's not on a flash drive.
Okay, actually then, go ahead and email it to me, Kristen. Sure. Maybe we can take a little break. Does not include a student.
So what I don't understand, here's what I can't.
Mary, do you want to take a break? Do we let people know?
If the group could give us just a couple of minutes, we're going to take maybe about a 4-minute break while we transfer files from one computer to another.
So we're taking a quick break? Yeah, 4 minutes. Okay.
Right now, we're looking at Krista's revised sexual misconduct policy glossary. We don't actually have this on an email, so we're going to read the difference to you online here. So, Krista?
Sorry, let me pull that up real quick. Okay, so we went ahead and moved responsible employee as its own definition, and basically everything is still the same except for responsible employees may include : and then listing out of the examples, and then we took out trainers next to coaches, so now it just says all coaches and other athletic staff that interact directly with students, but everything else is the same with this definition and the examples.
Any questions? Any other concerns more generally about anything else in the glossary?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Rick's comments to the glossary. So this would be on yours,
Number 8.
number 8. And Rick, I'm going to let you talk through this one. Your first set of edits here that you've got in highlighted yellow.
Yes, let me pull up hold on.
And I have it here for you. It's up.
So just in kind of talking with our sister coalition, the Texas Council on Family Violence, just wanting to kind of expand a little bit about what dating violence includes. And so my suggestion was adding just this piece that's highlighted to number 2, section A, of the different types of warning signs or things that can contribute to dating violence, just dating violence specifically. But I think I'll give you time to read it if anyone has any comments, but I think Krista had some thoughts or suggestions about what that could mean. And then I won't go into the second one, but the second one is about consent. So we'll do the first one first.
So
Go ahead.
should I cut it? So let me just see. Where would this go in this one? It would be up.
Under dating violence, 2A, it just expands A.
Got it. It would expands.
So this is sorry, Mary.
Okay, so right now I've got. Okay, I think I see it. So it's both of them are under 2.
Yeah, no. The second one, the without consent, that's not in the glossary at all. There was nothing in the glossary that defined what without consent was or what consent in general is, just a definition of that, like an affirmative definition. So my suggestion for the consent one was to add a definition about what consent is, because we use that term quite a bit in the slides.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to take this. Okay, you can watch me, Rick.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to highlight all this, right? And I'm going to paste it here. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah?
Okay.
Hi, this is Erica. Is consent defined anywhere in the law?
I'm going to pull that up, and that was my similar concern with including this new language of dating violence, because I believe what Donna put there was the exact definition out of Cleary, which is what the Texas law requires us to use. So I am all for giving examples of types of behavior, but maybe instead of integrating it into the definition, we could say something like examples of behavior that may fall within this definition of dating violence include, and then list that so that it's clear it's not part of the definition.
Yeah, I'm perfectly cool with that.
I agree with Rachel on that.
Yeah, I'm perfectly cool with that, and I was kind of hoping y'all would have a better suggestion about where to put it in, but I just kind of I threw it in there just for.
Yeah, I'm also worried about defining consent just because it's not defined in the statute, and how we define consent typically comes from the federal law.
Right.
Let's take one of these at a time, okay? So let's hold off on consent, and let's just get the dating violence language straightened out. I think one suggestion that I'm hearing, maybe I'm hearing, is that rather than in the glossary, that this become a slide as a hypothetical under the definition slides. I believe that dating violence is defined in our slides, but I'm not sure about that. And if it is, would that be the most appropriate or helpful place?
This is Michelle. I think it'd be fine to leave it in a glossary, but like Rachel suggested, just say as an example instead of
Okay.
dating violence is.
Yeah,
But I mean,
I
I'm
agree with
open to either. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion about either, but I think it'd be okay to leave it in the glossary.
And you also need to make it not like humiliating the victim. I mean, it's got to be may include, because you can't, everybody's definitions are going to be a little bit different. I'm getting nervous adding this much level of detail in something that is meant to be fairly generic.
I share that.
Okay, I'm
with
open to
Donna
whatever
on that
y'all
as well.
suggest, but again, these were, like Rachel said, these were just meant to be examples of different types.
That may be dating violence, not absolutely include. And so
I
now
agree.
we're talking about it. Just, I'm very uncomfortable with this concept.
Yeah, so this is Krista. I too shared some concerns that maybe these are more like potentially warning signs of physical violence, but not necessarily physical violence, since humiliation is a communication. But yeah, I think it's just figuring out where would be the most appropriate place to put this.
It doesn't feel like this is the right place for it to me.
Where would be a righter place?
I don't know if that's necessary to this in general. Just because we're required to define what this is for Clery. That piece seems more like it's more in depth into a Title IX training for investigators or things like that. I don't think it's necessary for what we're doing today, if that makes sense.
It does. I agree with you, Erica.
We may want to get, not by show of hands, but by voice vote, a determination about, I just am not sure. I'm hearing two different opinions, so we might, and before we do, Mary can call roll. I just think crazy is the wrong word. That should not be used there. That is a term that I think that is suggestive of things that are not, that have unintended consequences.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Rick's document rather than cutting and paste this, because we're really talking about Rick's document. I'm going to go way back into our regular document, and I'm taking that out. So if you look online right now, the sexual misconduct policy with Kristen's edits no longer has any edits having to do with Rick's stuff. So I'm pulling up Rick's. And if we want to change that, that's fine. But anyway, I'm going to stick with Rick's. And then I'm going to save Rick's, whatever one that you might want to adjust. So I'm going to save Rick's in another title.
The initial question that we'll ask Mary to call roll will be the question of whether the proposed addition to dating violence should reside in the glossary or somewhere else.
And this was meant to be really just kind of examples of the kinds of behaviors that could be constituted as dating violence, or that could manifest or exist within a dating violence situation. So wherever you guys see fit for this to be included, I'm open and amenable to that. If you think it just needs to be a note for the person who's facilitating the training to maybe give some examples, I'm okay with that as well. But I did just want to make the suggestion that in some way, shape, or form examples of what dating violence could include, other than what was stated, would be helpful to folks who are facilitating the training and or in a glossary.
All right, in light of that, I don't know that a vote is necessary at this point. It sounds to me as if we are now looking for a more appropriate place for language to be determined. I have suggested one place that wasn't initially received, and that was a hypothetical or some kind of example that would be pendant to the definition slide. I don't know what number that slide is, but would clearly be along the lines of an example or explanation. I'm open to other suggestions.
For the sake of time, I'm also open to either just taking a vote or a majority rules that we just not include it and stick to what the original intent of that was.
The author has offered us the opportunity for an all-in or not, and unless somebody on the committee feels strongly otherwise, then we will take a vote on inclusion of this language in the glossary or not. Any objection? Okay, Mary, let's just ask folks where they come out.
Now, we're just doing just the dating violence one, not the without consent one.
Correct.
Okay. Krista, include or not include?
Not include.
Eve? Eve Bell? Rick?
I'm going to abstain. Can I abstain?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Michelle?
I'm going to say not include as well.
Donna?
Not include.
David?
Not include.
Erica?
Not include.
Rachel?
Not include.
And back to Eve. And Florence, did you join us? Okay. We have all no's, aside from the abstain.
Yes.
All right.
I will also pose the same vote for the second part of it, the without consent. If that, again, the statute doesn't necessarily define consent, I just thought that having some definition of consent in whatever capacity would be helpful in the glossary. I don't know if folks have thoughts about that, but for the sake of time, if folks are just absolutely 100% that we don't need to define consent in the glossary at all, then same process as before with the last one.
So this is Rachel. I looked up Cleary. It says that it's consent in the applicable jurisdiction where the act occurred, at least as it relates to Texas, which wouldn't necessarily be the only jurisdiction we would be adjudicating. Without consent has 12 different potential subparts. So if we were trying to be accurate to even what Texas law is, it would be very extensive.
Yeah, it's a very complicated issue. Having litigated it, it's just not something that I think we should try to put into simple words for training purposes.
It is complicated, and it is, I think we can all agree, fundamental to many of the controversies that we are trying to address. Whether it should be in here is the question, and I'm hearing that this is something we should not memorialize in our glossary. Anyone who feels that it should be, whether it's without consent or consent, anybody feel as if it should be retained in the glossary?
This is Krista. I was thinking about it too, not necessarily memorializing without consent, quote unquote, but for clarification, is consent defined in the penal code in the Texas Penal Code technically? Okay. I'm getting nods from my counterparts here. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I can see maybe more, potentially defining consent as an affirmative, but coming to an agreement on what that is, I think is as a committee maybe incredibly difficult. So I don't know if our task may be too hard to do.
And it is not, we are not failing to meet our charge.
No.
Right.
By not including it. And with that, having heard no one who supports inclusion, Mary, I don't believe we need a vote on this. I'm going to ask one more time. Is there anyone who has not yet said they want to include a definition of consent or without consent in the glossary? That will come out of the glossary.
2 for 2. Good.
You make us think, Rick. That's a good thing.
Okay, so now I'm just going to pull back up the glossary, but there's, Rick, there's other things that you wanted to talk about, but is anything, it looks like we're just talking about the glossary. So so we're done with the glossary with respect to your stuff, right?
Yes. And thank you. Thank you for engaging that conversation. I appreciate it.
Okay, so now I'm back to the way it was with Kristen's suggested changes of party person, and then the responsible employee that we just talked about being pulled out. And I think you can still see it on our live broadcast.
Donna, are you on the live broadcast?
No, I'm not. But
Oh, because I was going to ask Mary to scroll back to that definition of practicable.
Actually, I can read
but
it.
I love.
Yeah, would you please read it to the group, please?
Practicable, a term that is legal gobbledygook, known to be used by lawyers with a distinct disdain for citing to statutory authority in the name of simplicity.
Donna, that is just so self-aware of you to put that in there.
I know. I thought she would like it.
Thank you. And I interrupted you, Mary. You were going to...
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only changes, and the only change that you really don't have is the one that is the responsible employee that's been pulled out that you've discussed, and I'm glad to read it if you like.
I don't think that's necessary. Does anyone, if someone would like it, we will do that. Anyone?
No, I'm good.
I think we're good.
Okay. Now, back to Rick's. There's training materials, all slides.
That was the 2 slides that we already went over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All righty. And then we've got training appendix, number 3 on Rick's number 8 document there.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted this just as a suggestion, I know that it is outside of the scope or the charge of what this committee is recommending, but I wanted to make some room somewhere in either the training appendix or somewhere that, at the sake of sounding long-winded, there's so much more that goes into, on the survivor's end, that goes into the report, right? So when a survivor makes a report to a mandatory reporter, to a confidential employee, or a student advocate, or whomever it is that they're reporting, that is required to either keep confidentiality or to report it to Title IX, there's some things that go along with that. If a person doesn't have any context or foundation for the dynamics of what sexual assault or domestic violence look like, if they don't understand, how to be empathetic, if they've never experienced that before, or had any other type of training or exposure to just hearing these kinds of incidences or reports, that can have sometimes a negative effect, right? So my suggestion was just kind of somewhere recommending that we add a list of complementary trainings that can go with this specific one. Not necessarily, we're setting the tone, or this committee is setting that charge, but to let folks know as a recommendation that if once you're getting this training, if you want more information about how to do these things or information about sexual assault or domestic violence in general, reach out to your local rape crisis center or family violence center, or call the state coalition, either Texas Council on Family Violence or us. We can refer you to folks where you can get this additional training. We can set up this training. And it's really, to me, just part of a complement to what we are being charged with doing. I worry that we are giving this information to folks, and then people are afraid. If someone comes and tells me I was sexually assaulted, I don't really know what to say. I know what to do. I don't know what to say. So my suggestion is to add this kind of blurb or this suggestion to beef up or complement their training by reaching out to other folks to have them come in and talk about these things. And these are some of the topics that I recommended that can be provided as additional training, aside from, again, what this committee is being tasked with to provide to folks who need it. And I took this example from what we did at Trinity University, where we gave a legislative update about the bill one day, and then the next day we came in and talked about what it means to be trauma-informed in your response, and how to provide a semblance of empathy and care to a person who is reporting a sexual assault. And the most important thing, and here's why I thought this was important, is the self-care piece, and vicarious trauma. So hearing these stories and not knowing how to handle it, not knowing how to externalize some of the emotions that they're feeling, and mostly internalizing that, not knowing who to talk to, I thought this would be a really great opportunity to expand on the charge that we've been tasked with.
So this would complement, but this would complement our recommended training materials.
This suggestion would complement it, yes.
So the question would be, can the coordinating board provide, because we're not going to recommend other resources, and I think those on the committee recall that we did discuss on more than one occasion some kind of compendium of resources that that are available without recommendation of the committee or the coordinating board that could also be posted. So it would be outside of what the coordinating board will consider in the way of our recommendations.
And please forgive me for adding or throwing a wrench into anything, since I wasn't part of the first couple of meetings. I wasn't sure what that was like, so I used the term recommend. We can switch that out to suggest, whatever you guys think is necessary.
Right, and I agree with David. I think we just put that out there, but not as a recommendation.
Okay.
I think
chime in here also, because what we would have to do in order to ensure, if we put this on the training website, people are going to think that it's endorsed by the coordinating board. And
Right.
Are all of these things that are listed here from TASA?
They're from the Attorney General's kind of minimum standards suggested topics that folks get trained on, if folks are interested in that. But these are just general topics that either TASA or TCFV or local rape crisis center or any agency that works with sexual assault or domestic violence survivors could train folks on. So if we come out, and again, this is just merely a suggestion as a recommend, I don't want to say, okay, I'll stop using recommendation. A suggestion that if folks want to get any additional training aside from this, reach out to your local rape crisis center. They can give you more information.
Right. And what one suggestion is to just refer them to those website, OAG's website, or to the TASA website, to the.
Yeah, and I would also note, this is Erica, is that part of our substantive Title IX trainings go into that. So I know some campuses reach out to other parties to train on that, but for example, in the UH system, we train on not just what you're required to do, but how you actually do that, how do you actually have empathy, show care, asking 3 questions, so things like that. So I think a lot of campuses are doing those pieces as part of the Title IX requirements as well.
So the question is, can the coordinating board, without endorsement, without recommendation, provide a list of resources that could include those that Rick has suggested, along with any others that members of the advisory committee feel would be appropriate, with the clear caveat that these are neither recommended nor endorsed by, but are additional resources?
Right.
Correct.
If that's possible, then that would seem to address Rick's legitimate request and would also keep us in our lane.
Right.
Anyone feel differently about that? I would simply say that with luck, we will complete our work on time today, and then as a follow-up, I will make a note to ping Mary with a reminder to invite those who feel they have resources that could complement Rick's suggested listings. And that could be something that, would find its way to the public.
Perfect. We do still have the templates, though, so we're not really done.
Well,
The only thing is that the broadcast is going to go off at 3 o'clock.
and with the broadcast going off at 3 o'clock, are we shut down?
We kind of are, because it's really, we posted the meeting from 1 to 3.
Okay.
My concern is, though, we still have report template and the 2 documents that really, I don't know that anybody's really looked at, that Krista's produced for the report templates. So,
I have looked at them, but we have not discussed them, and here's what I'm thinking. For purposes of completing timely our work today, the templates will be recommended, but they will not be completed. And so what we probably need is some form of motion by this committee to accept the recommended training materials. And Mary, I'll entrust to you to enumerate each of the items that we have reviewed today so that we can then entertain a motion and a vote.
fine. Okay, I'll just read them off. It's going to be basically number 1, as we changed it as of today. Number 2, that Rick's slides are going to go in after 40 as modified as today. So it's number 1 and number 2, the training materials, and then Rick's extra slides. There's the companion list, if you would entrust me to change the numbers based on when I change the numbers with the additional hypotheticals, it'll be that companion list. And then number 4, the training materials recommended topics for employees, again, as adjusted by the numbering changes that I'll make. The MOU Rape Crisis Centers, number 5. The Title IX Sexual Misconduct Checklist, as revised minimally today, with the additional a footnote at the bottom with respect to the Senate bill and the House bill. And then the Sexual Misconduct Policy Glossary, number 7, just with Krista's edits, the ones that changed from the responsible employee to having its own separate definition, and changing the word party to persons, but not including the additions that were discussed that Rick brought forward. And I believe that's it. Does anybody else have any other ones that I may have missed? Because those are going to be the ones, that there's essentially 7 of them that will be voted on en masse in just a couple of minutes.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept those items as the Training Advisory Committee's recommendations to the coordinating board with regard to the adoption of those rules consistent with and pursuant to Senate Bill 212 and House Bill 1735. Is there a motion?
So moved. This is Donna.
A second?
Second. Rick.
Is there discussion of the motion to accept the training materials as enumerated by Mary? Is there any discussion of that before we vote? Hearing none. All in favor of accepting those items enumerated by Mary as the recommendations of the Training Advisory Committee pursuant to the legislative mandates of Senate Bill 212 and 1735 by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the vote is unanimous on the recommendation to the coordinating board from its Training Advisory Committee. With that, we have reached our 3 o'clock and just a couple of minutes over deadline. I want to thank you all for all of the time and the work. It is our understanding from Kathy Cordova that there may be basis in law for us to revisit this on an annual basis. And so I guess the word is we'll be hearing from them.
Yeah. And I want to thank you, too. Just, I know I'm not a member of this committee, but you all have been incredible work, so thank you very much.
And Krista, anything you'd like to offer in closing?
Oh, well, I have really appreciated getting to know everybody on this committee and the rulemaking, so thank you so much, and I appreciate all of y'all.
And I do want to correct one thing I said. I have been invited to throw a party over the holidays. My kids have invited me to host a party for them, so I don't know if that counts, but wish you all a very happy holiday season, and thank you again.
Yes, and I'll be in touch via email with all of the final stuff.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second?
Got it.
Second,
Rachel,
this is Krista.
second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank